Some of the things that I apply to mentoring are the same kind of things I applied to my team at my gym to get them to the point where they could take this thing over and run it for me. I would tell them that I want them to run the gym. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm grooming you for something, something's coming around the corner, maybe if you're good. No, it's like, here's what I see happening.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. This is Eric LeClaire over at Push Press, and we are continuing our In the Trenches series. We explore a lot when it comes to coaches and coaches development, owners and owner development, as well as mentorship. And the term mentorship has been hot and heavy for at least the past 3 to 5 years in our space, in the gym owner space. And there aren't very many that are true mentors, individuals that objectively can point to data and changes in real gym owners' lives. But there is one, and there's one that actually I've paid attention to, read a lot of, followed a lot of, listened to a lot, and really, really respect. And so today, man, Jeff, I am super, super happy to have you on. We might jump into Burly Fishing and maybe we'll get there down the road. But for those that don't know you from Two Brain or even from Friction, welcome. I'm glad you're on In the Trenches today, brother.
Hey man, I'm stoked to be here. I'm really excited for this, and I appreciate you having me on.
Excellent. This is a great way to kind of round off our week. For those of you that will be watching this, we're recording on Friday. For some of our gym owners out there, at least here in the United States, we've got states up in the air as far as gyms that are open, gyms that are half open, gyms that are still closed, all over the place. And as a mentor to gyms and at different levels of gyms, where would you say present time today the biggest struggle point is that you can at least speak to?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's crazy out there right now. And I think having been a gym owner myself, like what I would be feeling in this time and what I'm hearing from people out there in the trenches right now is, it's the unknown. It's not knowing what tomorrow will bring. I mean, you could have been in the UK or, some of our gyms in like Quebec, like, you go into another shutdown, or in California, you have a fire. Colorado fires happened as well. It's seemingly like not even just the pandemic itself, but there's also these natural disasters or other things that are causing these gyms to have to close. And for many, honestly, they just weren't ready for it. And they get hit with that. And then it's like, how do you survive? How do you make it through when you weren't prepared for something like that? And to be fair, like, how could you prepare for something like that? So right now, a lot of it is just, we've got gyms going into second shutdown. So it's how do you prepare for a second shutdown? Well, you went through it the first time. What lessons were learned? How could you apply and change and improve this time around? And so far in like the UK and Canada, where we're seeing this happening right now, or even like Australia is, and I think New Zealand just went too, but we're starting to see like the second time around, the drop off is far less, which is awesome to see. It's if you embrace it, you embrace that suck, that you're getting shut down, it's going to be tough, your members are going to be not happy about that, then you're applying what you've learned from last time, or you're leaning on people like your mentors, or people that have gone through and collected that data, which is something, for example, we've done at Two Brain and put out our second shutdown guide. So that's something that we're referencing a lot with these gym owners, and we're seeing some good responses there, and it's seemingly better this time around. But you really do have to be like, all right, it's happening. It's going to happen. You're going to close. I'm even telling, we're planning for like 2021 right now. Get your annual plan together, which if you guys aren't prepping for next year, you should. You don't know what's going to happen, but I'm honestly just telling gym owners like, hey, next 6 months or first 6 months of 2021, pretend like you're going to get shut down. What are you going to do? Like, plan for that. So there's a lot of prep work going on right now for sure.
I dig it. What I'm really happy to hear about is that you're providing, these gym owners are almost always head down, face down, eyes down in the trenches, but working on the solutions today. I'm happy that you're having them lift their heads up and look out like 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. That planning phase has to be done. Besides Two Brain, was that your process back in the beginning? I mean, obviously you had a gym ownership stake, you had a coaching and a management role. From a leadership standpoint, you've been in leadership positions for well over a decade. Am I right?
Yeah. So, for me, I started out in the fitness industry as a personal trainer when I was 18. And, I didn't know anything. I'm just a kid trying to make my way in a gym. Like, notably, I worked when I got into college at Michigan State University. I worked at one of the intramural centers, the IM centers, and I was trying to sell PT to students and
Yeah.
faculty, which was yeah, there's a lot of oh yeah, I forgot I'm a student, I have no money, this doesn't work. So that was a lot of fun, kind of learning from that experience and then trying to improve my sales skills and like go from there. And I like kind of climbed the ladder for a little while, but I wound up on the East Coast working for a global gym chain, and we had 7 gyms on the East Coast. There was 4 that were in Virginia and 3 that were in New York. So I'd actually like fly back and forth every month and spend like a week in New York working at these gyms. But that's where like my first real leadership experience came into play. I had managed gyms before that, but I would have like 1, 2 personal trainers. And honestly, I did a piss poor job at it. So yeah, there's a lot of learning and experience and growth at this organization. And I had people above me that became my mentors, which was fantastic. And I would learn from them and apply every single day. But I was able to like grow from managing one spot when I first moved out there, because I'm from Michigan. So moving to the East Coast was kind of a big deal for me. My wife and I went out there. That would have been back in 2010, I think. So we got out there and we had to make this thing work. But I grew up, in one gym, was able to expand to another. I ended up becoming what they called a regional fitness manager. So I managed the personal training departments of all these gyms. And we had big numbers. These are gyms that they had 16,000, 18,000 members. Yeah. And our personal training goals per gym could be, $300,000 like per gym. So that's per month, not per year. So we would have
You say numbers, and some CrossFit coaches are like, oh, that's pretty good annually. And then you're like, oh, no, wait, we're talking monthly.
Yeah, we're doing millions in PT. Like it was insane. And, most of it was like you're selling 48, 80 sessions. We did packages at the time, which is not how I prefer to sell PT, but it's just what we did. So they were paid in full membership. So it's a lot of cash deals. And it's a pretty well-to-do area. So it applied. We were on a lot of gyms in like the Long Island area, New York, and then in Virginia, we were in the DMV area. So, we had a lot of military personnel, like higher ups in the military. We had, all sorts of crazy stuff going on there. But yeah, it was a very interesting experience. I had around 350 personal trainers that were under me, 7 fitness managers, 1 per gym, and about 4 assistant managers. If the gym was big enough, we'd have like a second fitness manager to help out. So I had to learn. It was the hard and fast lessons, man. It was like help them make this thing happen, train them in their sales and their management skills, because they would have to manage the trainers at each of those locations. So kind of was able to hone my skills as a mentor and manager myself to help them be successful, because often that was remotely. Like I couldn't be at 7 gyms, 3 of which were in a different state at all times. So I had to operate remotely. And that really came into play later on. When I moved away from that, I ended up doing the same kind of gig, less notably smaller size, in Michigan, just kind of as a holdover while I tried to get my CrossFit gym up and running. So we opened the CrossFit gym, it was 2014 in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And we were like inside of a racquetball court. We had 800 square feet. The acoustics were terrible. And I know there's gym owners out there that are like, yeah, I've been in the garage. Like I get it. So yeah, a lot of you guys we're on the same page for sure. But from there, I literally got kicked out of that gym, and I was working for these guys, this organization in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I was running like 12 of their gyms, their personal training departments, just like I was doing on the East Coast, and had partnered up with one of their partners to like do this thing, start the CrossFit gym, because they thought it was a money grab. And I just wanted to be a CrossFit gym owner because I cared about coaching and I cared about the people, but they wanted the money. And they saw that it wasn't huge for money. Yeah. So they kicked us out of the spot. And then they fired me from that job. So I literally like, month 6. It was like month 6, maybe, no, I guess it was like 12 months in. So like 12 months into the gym, it's not making any money. And then I go from losing my entire paycheck to having to figure this thing out. And luckily I had been with Two Brain at that point for, I think, about 6 or so months, and just called up Chris Cooper and was like, dude, like this just happened. What do I do? Like literally in tears, on the edge of like breakdown. And
Yep.
he says like, look, man, you're backed into a corner, but there's one thing I know about you at this point. It's that's when you perform your best. So, from a mentor standpoint, it's like sometimes it just takes one line, like that one flipped a switch for me. And what was really cool is we went from, I wasn't getting paid at that gym. We were making like 99,000 a year, annual revenue for this gym, not charging enough, not adding revenue streams, just trying for memberships, more members, right? To the next year, we hit 250K. So we went from 99 to 250. It was insane. And I was able to like grow my staff and grow my team and pay them better and like actually take home a paycheck and survive off of that for the next couple of years. And that was great. And then it got to the point at which we were just talking before we hopped on here and started recording, is I sold my gym last November. It was like official, right? 2019. So I sold it to 2 of my guys who I call, this is a concept I came up with and delivered at a Two Brain Summit 2 years ago, back when we could all be in public, like together. You guys remember that? It's pretty fantastic.
Time, right? Totally weird.
So weird. But I delivered this thing at Summit and I called it the Golden Goose. And the way I think about it is, if you have the right people and you find the right seats for them and you give them the right opportunities, they can grow and flourish within your organization. And they're kind of like that golden goose from Willy Wonka, where like you get the golden goose, you get golden eggs every single day if you want. Like that's what they could be. So I had found those guys, and those guys, they bought my gym last year, and they're doing great, which in a pandemic, it's fantastic to hear. And like, I'm not going to go ahead and take any of that credit. Like, I think they're fantastic at what they do, but I did work with them to find the right seats for them within that organization over the years and build them up to a point where they could operate this gym and like win and like do well. And
Yeah.
I am proud of that. I'm proud of
pandemic. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, exactly. Like they have come so far, and it's fantastic to see them doing so well right now. But yeah, it's like I got to a point in gym ownership where some of you guys can probably, you feel this, like you get to a point where that fire just kind of goes out. There's a happening, if you will, where 40 members just left. 40, which, I'm a small gym. We had like 100 members. So that was 40% of the membership. Now our average revenue per member was like $350. So like we had that's where the revenue is like coming through, but we didn't need a lot of people. But then you lose 40% of your membership and something like breaks in you, you know what I mean? So like that happened. And at that point I was like, all right, we got to do something else, figure something out. But that's when I kind of flipped that switch. I pulled these guys in. I was like, you need to run this. I'm not going to be here day to day. Like, this is what I've been doing this whole time. This isn't working for me. I want to get this to a point where you can take it, you can run, you can carry this torch, and you can succeed. And over, the following, I think it took me, 90 days strictly. We just set out a kind of a roadmap of like 90 days, I'm out. And we had to like build it back up and build them up during that time. So it was sort of a sprint to that finish line. But, I was working with my mentor at Two Brain. We set some goals. I was very transparent with my guys. We sat down weekly. We talked about, finding that right position, kind of moving them around the seats on the bus, playing musical chairs for a little bit. And when we found the right seats and we all felt good and we knew like how to report to each other and communicate properly without me micromanaging, it was like, that's it. We're good. And gloves were off. I left the gym and I didn't come back for 18 months. And when I came back for them to sign contracts to start the sales process.
Man, what a story. I think that's been hammered on a couple of times before in either different podcasts or on different things that you've had a chance to speak on behalf of. Can we go back to the story about you kind of brand new as the gym owner, your CrossFit gym owner, you said you had already been working with Two Brain. How did you find them initially, and how did you make that decision, that having that trust in Chris or in the brand, and more importantly, recognizing yourself that you need help?
Yeah, absolutely. So I knew I needed help from the beginning. I try to approach everything with a beginner's mindset. So I try not to approach it like, oh, I know everything. When I got into sales, I looked up who's the best at sales. And you guys probably remember like Net Profit Explosion and Bedros Keuilian and like all those guys that were superstars back in the 2010 era. So I was following those guys, and then I was doing anything they were saying. Bedros is writing $12,000 PIFs. I'm like, okay, I'm going to write a $12,000 PIF. I did get a $6,000 PIF. I never got a 12K, but it's, like I wanted to mirror that. And then I read the best books out there and I learned everything I possibly could. My favorite sales books, the Sales Bible by Jeffrey Gitomer and Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy. I have read those 45 times. And it was just like, every time I drove to work, I'm listening to it. When I drive back, I'm listening to it. Sometimes at home, I'm listening to it, and then apply. And it was the same with business ownership. So I knew that was like my life before owning the CrossFit gym. So I had, many, at that point, 5, 6, 7 years or whatever in sales experience. Going into the CrossFit gym, I was like, I have no business experience. I've been working for someone else this entire time. So how do I do this thing? And I would read like the E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And I'm like, this is good stuff. Okay, cool. I read good to great. All right, cool. What else can I do though? And I came across the best-selling fitness business book of all time. If you guys have heard of a guy named Chris Cooper, and I read Two Brain Business, and I was like, okay, this is neat. It's pretty good. There's no page numbers. It's like not that guided. And he's
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all over the place. And he says this all the time and he gets it. And all of the future iterations of 3.0 may be coming out at some point. I don't know, hint, hints, but they're getting better and better. And they're just like to the point where we now offer what we call the roadmap to our growth clients, which is literally just this linear progression that you can follow to advance yourself as an entrepreneur, which is fantastic. But I read that book, found out he was at another company at the time. I went there and tried to work with him, ended up with a different mentor. And then he left that company. And then I just called him and I was like, I want to be with you. I want you to mentor me. And how do I do that? And he was like, oh, well, I just started this new company and there's like 45 other people here. You're in. And I was like, okay, cool. Here's my credit card. Let's go.
I made it. Yep.
Yeah. I was like, I made the cut. This is amazing. So then, so I started working with him there and like things were pretty good. Like I said, we started making advancements, but then it was, I got that kick in the pants where kicked out of the gym. I had to move that gym literally overnight and got fired and had to survive. Like I got a family. I got 2 little girls at home. I got a wife. I got a house. I had just bought a house. Like things were nuts. And I had to make a paycheck. So I was like, Chris, we got to turn this thing up to 11, like today. So we ramped it up.
Outstanding, man. There's so many folks that we either consult on behalf of or work with, align with, connect with, listen to, definitely in Facebook land, Instagram land. And I just wish that they could be placed in front of the right people when they needed it. I mean, at last count, maybe 3 weeks ago, almost 100 affiliates have closed for good in the Southern California area. Closed.
Yeah.
Not like just shut down for a couple of weeks and they're doing Zoom or online or ID work or nutrition, like done. Selling their gear, terminating their lease, finding jobs someplace else. And it sucks for the owners and the coaches, but those are also hundreds, now thousands of displaced clients.
Yeah.
Right on the tail end. It's frustrating, man. Totally frustrating.
Yeah, we're seeing that in a lot of different areas, states, countries, all over the world right now. It's like, whereas 3 years ago, I would talk to a gym owner in a major city and I'd say, how many competitors are around you? And they'd say 20. Now I'm calling them, are like, hey, 18 of those competitors are gone. There's 2 of us left. And I've got these people banging on my door saying, I want a new community. And at the same time, we've been, working through, for example, Mike Michalowicz's pumpkin plan, and we're preaching that you want the right clients. And now you've
No,
got,
all the clients.
yeah, now you have all the clients banging on your door and you don't know who amongst them is the right client or the wrong client. So we're trying to help them make strategic decisions without, leaving people out in the cold, because we don't want to leave them out in the cold. But let's be honest, like, you're a micro gym. You can't have exactly 1,000 members, especially if you want to charge an appropriate amount, make a profit as a business owner, and help your staff, be successful. Like, you're going to collapse your infrastructure. You're not ready for that. So it is something that's very challenging on both ends of the spectrum. And it's very sad to see some of these amazing affiliates just go under, and we don't want to see that. And I'll say, for some of them, kind of like the writing's on the wall, let's be real, or they at this point don't want to be in it. I'll be honest, if it had hit me, if the pandemic had hit in 2018, I probably would have closed my affiliate.
Right.
Because I didn't want to do it at that time. I didn't have my guys running it yet at the beginning of that year. They ran it towards the middle of the year, but it's like, I wasn't ready for that. I probably would have closed the doors too. So you gotta be like in the right mindset, or, at least in a mindset of, let's take action, let's do something, let's make something happen. But sometimes you've been doing this for 10, 15 years, and it's like another punch and another punch and another punch. How many can you take?
Exactly. No, exactly. I can totally associate with those feelings. I mean, same thing, had a chance to sell my gym to our general manager. He's been a fantastic friend and obviously now business owner. And had the pandemic hit during that transition, like you said, when he wasn't ready. It could have just been a thank you, but no thank you. We've been around since 2005, 2006, and our writing time was on the wall. Growth, progression, family, kid, moving. We're on our way out to Tennessee and from California. And it would have been time regardless. I'm just glad we have a good train up window and a transition window and an ownership change. And now those people have a home, and they are cared for. I just think now kind of my head always goes back to those earlier days, almost like a lessons learned, but almost from a maturity standpoint. Did you ever have examples of poor management, poor leadership, or folks that you're like, dang, when I'm the owner and I'm coaching people, when I'm building up teams, and I'm not going to be like that?
Yeah, 100%. The Globo Gym, that organization that I worked for on the East Coast, we would do weekly manager calls. So I'd be on there with the area manager, the general managers of each gym, the operation managers of each gym. And essentially, this organization cared more about numbers than people, which we see often in business. But you would get on there, and it would be like, tell us your numbers. And it's just like hard cut data only, black and white. That's it. It's like, yeah. There's no compassion on the call whatsoever. They would just rip us apart. I don't remember a single positive conversation with any of my higher ups, other than the ones that were not technically even my bosses. But there were some, it was like a family owned business. It's huge in Chicagoland, and it branches out to the East Coast, and they've got, I don't know how many they have now. I don't know how they're doing that during the pandemic at all. But this organization is like family owned, and they would have a few friends of the family, which to me, some of them at least, were very much mentors to me. And they would push me, and they'd call me, and they were the only ones ever positive to me. But like, my direct managers were always like, numbers, numbers, numbers. They get the results, are like, that's what I expected. They don't get the results, they're like, this is terrible. I was never once like patted on the back or saluted whatsoever. So that was definitely one for me, where I was like, dude, stop catching people doing things wrong, start catching people doing things right. And like, you never give them any credit for that. Why would they ever want to perform for you?
Correct.
So that was a huge one for me. And, even with that having happened in my own organization, I can say I definitely failed quite a few times. I think we all have, but that's obviously how we learn, as long as you learn from it. And there was a time before the guys I call my Golden Geese, right? Before I got them in place, there was another person or two that I attempted to grow within that organization. And it was, kind of the wrong person. I didn't put them in the right seats. I didn't move them enough. And that is one thing I try to stress more than anything with business owners is, having everybody's read like the E-Myth by Michael Gerber, right? So, the saying, right people, right seats. Well, you can put the right people in the wrong seats, but if they don't perform well because they're in the wrong seat, don't crucify the person, just move them to another seat.
Yep.
And I made the mistake of saying, like, you're the person for the seat. You're in that seat. That's your seat forever, assigned seats only. And just not feeling comfortable moving them around
Never
to the
turn the
point.
music on to say, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I would push them to the point where they were supposed to make that work and they didn't make it work. And then I kind of blamed them and then they just burned out and left.
I completely 100% agree. I made that error exactly twice. Same thing.
Yeah.
We're living these two parallel learnings, our ownership life.
Yeah.
So those two folk kind of drifted, but you had a chance to like see representations of poor management, poor leadership skills, hard and soft skills, and took that learning with you.
Mm-hmm.
Fumbled around like in the dark a little bit, but then you were able to find your golden geese and right place, right time, right, like all of it became good. While you were like orchestrating the buyout, you obviously still had your other foot inside Two Brain. At this point, how did you go from being Two Brain customer and having mentors to moving into the mentorship landscape to now who you are today, mentoring mentors who mentor gym owners? How has that worked, and what other hard lessons have you had to learn along that hierarchy?
Yeah. So I started the path to mentorship, to becoming a mentor in January 2017.
Okay.
And I was the first batch of official getting trained by the books kind of mentor on the team.
Okay.
And so I went through the whole training process, and it was basically just like, know the business front to back, know the training systems that we use at Two Brain front to back. And that has evolved over the years very much. And, we went from having our incubator process where we onboard people, and it's a lesson 1 through 7 that's now become the ramp up phase, which drives them into what we call the roadmap, which is that linear progression of an entrepreneur that I mentioned. If you guys check out Chris Cooper's book, Founder, Farmer, Tinker, Thief, you're going to see more about that entrepreneurial evolution and how every entrepreneur progresses over time. So it's more about how you progress, not just your business, not a singular business, but multiple businesses over time. So, had to learn all these things, through the years since January 2017. Within that organization, there's been, many changes, and we've expanded, we've added mentors, and the base level of it is, to be a mentor, you have to be a successful gym owner, and you have to walk in the shoes, your guys' shoes, to do that. So you've gone through, you've failed, you've won, you've bled, you've cried, you've gone through. I've called Chris Cooper crying like 6 times. You kidding me? It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to do that. Like, you can fail. It's allowed. And that's honestly, as long as you take from that, you learn the lesson from that, that's what drives us forward. And that's what helps me communicate with gym owners all over the world, because I'll hop on with them and they'll be like, yeah, I had a member leave. I was talking to, this is like, I guess it would have been maybe a year ago at this point, some of my favorite gym owners, and they had an issue where a coach left. You guys heard this story before. Took a bunch of coaches with them, took a ton of members with them. They started talking trash on the internet. They opened a second gym. Guess what? I've had that happen 3 times. And every time handled it a little differently and a little better, and learned over the years. So I was able to say like, oh, cool. I've been through that too. Let's talk about this.
Yep.
Yeah. So you can meet them where they're at. Like, you've had that experience. So for me, it's been having more and more of those experiences and more of those conversations. And at this point, I've had thousands of mentor calls. And I've worked with hundreds of gym owners over the years, and some I'm still working with since 2017, which I'm just insanely pumped about, that I still get to talk to them every single month. And it's been fantastic. So there's not, as far as leadership goes, as a mentor, it's leadership of the gym owners. It's leading from the front. It's having had that experience, which I think, and we think at Two Brain Business, it's very important that you're not just stepping in like, oh, I owned a yoga studio once, let me coach you on your CrossFit gym, or, oh, I've never actually owned a gym, but I've read lots of books about owning gyms and I think I can help you. No, we've literally trudged through the same trenches you have or currently are. Many of us still own gyms, because we're crazy like that in 2020, but we want to help you and we can apply that. So it's been that for my team. Like some of the things that I apply to, mentoring are the same kind of things I applied to my team at my gym to get them to the point where they could take this thing over and run it for me. But it's always been about transparency, honesty, integrity. Those are things that I firmly believe in. I would tell them that I want them to run the gym. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm grooming you for something, something's coming around the corner, maybe if you're good. No, it's like, here's what I see happening. I would sit down and have those real moments with them. If they look upset, I want to know what's going on. I want to help out. I'll dive into that. We can get real like that. And if they're not happy with how something's going with the organization, let's talk about it. Like, I'm not going to fight them about it. I want to learn from them what they think. Why is it wrong? What would you do differently? More importantly, because I want you to run the place. So right. I want to hear your feedback. Like, what would you do if this happened? How would you handle that? And I would be very open with them about that. Honesty, integrity, like obviously those are important things. Like, I'll always tell them how I feel. I'll be straightforward with them, never lie to them, never mask anything, never hide anything, even the numbers at times, if they're my higher up guys, mind you, not everybody. And then, always sticking to the things I say. If I say this is going to happen, I'm going to make it happen. We'll make it happen together. And a lot of that applies in mentorship as well. I can be very open with my mentees, the gyms that I work with. And that's extremely important because it goes a long way to developing trust. Without that trust, why would they follow me? Why would they?
No kidding. The trust component is massive. And I think there's so many, you said something about 3 minutes ago when you talked about, and let me not forget about the trust component here. You are a true gym owner of the gym owners you are coaching versus the yoga component, coaching in CrossFit gym. But really it's walk the walk, talk the talk, prove it. There's empirical proof. There's data points that you can prove to versus how many people do we see in the scene right now that are saying, and we could use the word guru, but whatever. Hey, I'm going to sell you this concept. I've never done it myself, but I've got this concept to sell you. Trust me. And the disconnect is in that, well, there is no trust because you aren't doing the thing you're selling. You can't, You've never lived it, bled it, sweat it, nothing. That's a huge piece that I think really makes Two Brain and the Two Brain mentors like yourself stand in a completely different landscape than a lot of the stuff that's being offered to gym owners. And we know there's noise. We know there's hundreds of competitors in the mentor scene right now.
Oh yeah. It's, if you go on Facebook and you know how Facebook listens to you all the time, then you're going to see ads for marketing and you're going to see ads for business consulting practices, mentorship, etc. But yeah, I would ask you to do research on whoever you're looking at and to dive in and to look for the authenticity. Is there authenticity? Are those mentors, are those consultants truly authentic? Have they gone through what you're going through? And if they haven't, don't listen to them.
Yep, exactly. So you have another caveat to your life that doesn't sound like mentorship or gym ownership, but it obviously looks like, and from an enthusiastic standpoint, it looks like something you're exceptionally passionate about. And I don't quite know where you find the time or where you make the time, obviously, but what is Burly Fishing?
Yeah. So after I sold my gym, on the path to selling my gym, I started last September a fishing YouTube channel because I'm crazy like that. And, fishing is something that I'm really passionate about. My dad got me into fishing when I was a kid. It's something that brings back memories of like my dad and my grandpa. And, one of my best friends, that I've ever had is also helping me out with that. He helps me run the podcast. And, we met playing rugby in college at Michigan State University, actually, and kind of both got into fishing and extremely passionate about it. It's something just amazing, one, to just get into the great outdoors and experience, but two, to experience with others. It's one of the most fun things that I've ever done, because it doesn't involve electronics and other things like that. It's a way to kind of, it's an escape, and it's something. I would say this, I'll talk about it, but like, I would say this: if you're an entrepreneur, you need to find that task, that thing, that hobby that has literally nothing to do with your business, and yet requires 100% of your attention. If I'm out there fishing, I have to be thinking at all times of, how do I catch this fish? What setup, rod and reel, what line am I using? What lure am I using? Where am I casting that lure? What is my retrieve style? What's the weather? What's the water temp? What's the position of my boat? I don't have room to think about my gym, my business, my life, anything. And that's probably why I love it so much, but why I'd also recommend not necessarily that, but something like that to anybody listening who owns a business or wants to own a business. You need to have that thing, because you will burn out. Everybody burns out. Nobody is immune to it. Every single person, every business owner I've ever encountered in my life has encountered burnout, including myself, 6 or 7 times. Like, you will hit that burnout peak. And before you do that, you can prevent that if you can find something like this. It's cathartic, it's engaging, it's just something that you find enjoyment in, that requires 100% of your attention and cannot let you, like, you cannot think about your business. There is no room for it. Don't take your phone. Don't have your Apple Watch on. Just go do that thing. And that's probably the best advice from this that I can give you. That's not what Burly Fishing is per se. It's not like a mentorship practice where I'm like, oh, hey, go do this like thing that has nothing to do with your business. It's literally, Burly Fishing is product reviews, because everybody who fishes is a friggin' gearhead. Like, that's what it is. They all just love gear. They love tackle. Those videos that I make get the most views, but essentially it's a media business for me, where mostly it's the YouTube videos where I'm trying to grow that channel and get paid by YouTube for advertising. I've got, on Instagram, you can follow us at Burly Fishing, Facebook, same thing. I get to dabble in TikTok and other things like that. What I learned from it, honestly, that I could apply to business owners out there, is how to grow a brand in those media markets. In 1 year, we've gone to almost 10,000 subscribers. We'll hit that this month on YouTube. We're coming up on 5,000 followers on Instagram. Facebook is still growing. TikTok is over 5,000 followers, and I didn't know how to like properly use those platforms beforehand. So I'm learning a lot of that, but also it's me. It's like my personal brand. It's another place where I get to be authentic and I get to be me. And I don't know why anybody would want to play a character, honestly. Yeah. Like, why would you want to be anyone else? It's just uncomfortable, So I basically, I get to buy fishing stuff. And the coolest thing that's been happening lately is I get fishing stuff sent to me for free to review on the channel. And then I get paid from YouTube to do it.
Yep.
So I love that.
Done. That's it.
Yeah.
I love it. And earlier in the day, you're consulting with gym owners, making their lives better. And that is business. That's work. So you work on behalf of your brain. But there's something, and maybe I'm projecting on, but I can almost guarantee you may not receive the dollars back from the gym owners that you're helping, but there's gratitude. There's like, you're changing people's lives. You're literally changing gym owners' lives, who are in turn changing their clients' lives. And there's this like level of authenticity there. You're helping in so many different directions. I love it. Totally dig it.
Absolutely, man. And That's something that I've thought about since I became a personal trainer at 18. And maybe you guys owning gyms at this point feel kind of the same way. But when you're a trainer, you hit a peak level where, let's say at my peak, I was training 10 sessions a day, right? You can train 10 sessions a day. Likelihood of having over 25 clients is maybe pretty low. Like you can manage a book of 25 clients pretty consistently, maybe 30. You're not getting that much more.
Right.
And that means you get to help specifically 25 to 30 people. If you become a personal training manager, now you manage a team of personal trainers, each of which may have a book of 25 clients.
Yep.
You could probably manage a max team size of, at my biggest gyms, I had 40 trainers. So I've got 40 times 25, which
Yep.
is a lot, 1,000 or whatever people that you can actually help at that point. Then you could manage multiple gyms. Then you could manage, multiple states of multiple gyms.
Yep.
And then to me, like the peak, the tip, the crest of all this would be you could mentor multiple gym owners who then have multiple teams. And that's definitely an easier thing to do than to manage, because I've done both, to manage multiple gyms with managers at them within that organization. Being a mentor of these teams is much easier. And, from there, be Chris Cooper. You got like a mentorship practice. So I've always thought about like, how do you climb to the peak of that to help at the bottom of that pyramid, like the maximal number of people. And that's all I've ever strived for. And, I'm happy where I'm at right now. And,
Right.
for me, the hope is to continue to mentor gym owners and hopefully work with more and more over the next couple of years,
Speaking of working with gym owners, so if someone's listening today and they've been taking notes and they've been like reflecting on their own concerns, obviously we're in second or third shutdowns for some states. They're struggling. They're concerned about where they are. Maybe they haven't reached out. How do they find you, or how would they get in contact with Two Brain? What's the easiest, fastest way?
Yeah. So the fastest way is to go to twobrainbusiness.com and go to the book a free help call on the top right. So just click that. You can book a free call. You'll be talking to one of our professional staff, one of our mentors, who is also a gym owner, just like you. And they'll talk to you for about an hour, and you'll walk away with some action steps. No matter what, whether you sign up or not, you're going to get some action steps, some things you can apply directly to your business to help you be more successful. If you choose to work with us, we do have what we call the ramp up program, where you can get started with us and you can go from there after about 12 weeks at most to move into our growth phase. Most people get through that first phase in like 6 to 8 weeks. It's a sprint at the beginning, and then you get into growth, and then you get to do all the fun stuff, we like to call it. That's the fun phase. So you kind of work your way into that, but they can give you a lot more info there. If you want to work with me specifically, when you talk to the team there, just mention my name. I'm Jeff. I'm a mentor at Two Brain, and I'd be happy to work with you. There are many Jeffs on the team, but I am the original Jeff. So say you want the original Jeff, the OG Jeff Burlingame. Okay.
So now, last piece on that, is Two Brain mentorship open only to gym owners, brick and mortar, or is there space for trainers, coaches, or the digital coach who manages a book of business online only?
So great point. And we're lucky enough to have such a huge, amazing team at Two Brain, where we do have specialists. For example, I'm a sales specialist for Two Brain. So I work with the entire sales process. I have a ton of experience with that and have been helping people for years with that. We have online coaching specialists. We have personal training specialists. We have nutrition specialists. We offer nutrition programs. We actually have our own coaching certification program as well. So there are many facets to it. And that's a great question. If you are in the fitness industry, everything we're teaching and coaching people through will apply to you. So anybody in any facet of the fitness industry, this will apply. And we're actually working on expanding that network, working with more experts outside of the fitness industry. So at some point in the near to distant future, we will have, in addition to our current roadmap, mostly geared towards the fitness industry, we'll have something outside of that. So yeah, we can work with other types of businesses in the future. But, I imagine we've been talking here, most of your listeners are going to be in the fitness industry. So yeah, we got you covered. You own a personal training business, you work out of your garage, you're only coaching people online, you have a programming business, you got a nutrition coaching business, all of that stuff falls in the realm of our mentorship practice.
Excellent. That's huge, because there are so many folks that are on different paths, not just the gym owner path. And quite frankly, today, a lot of folks are not necessarily interested in brick and mortar. They've recognized the scalability of the digital market space, or at least the opportunities are different there. And so it takes a different kind of mentor, maybe someone who has operated, as you said earlier, as a specialist. So I'm really happy to hear that there are that many opportunities. Man, Jeff, thank you so much for your time. I know you're super slammed, so I just want to say, from those of us here that are gym owners and coaches at Push Press, thank you for sharing both your wisdom and your expertise, but also your authenticity. That's going to be huge for gym owners to connect with. And man, I'm a subscriber already to Burly Fishing, and so with our foray into Tennessee, I will hopefully be paying more attention to that, because that's down the road. The one thing I've never ever dipped my toe in yet has been fishing. So you may be a mentor to me on that.
Yes, I love it, man. Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Got him. Awesome. Thanks, brother.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, make sure you like our channel, subscribe, and check out our other videos right here.